Autumn came early to Boston. On an October evening, as the trees began to turn red and yellow, Laura Bradley finished her final presentation in the medical device manufacturer's conference room. The clock already showed 7 p.m. As she packed her materials into her bag, she wondered what her daughter Amy was doing now. Had she come home from school and finished her homework? What did she have for dinner today? "Laura, your sales figures this quarter are excellent," said Michael, the department head, with a smile as she turned around. "Thank you. The new line of neurosurgical equipment is doing well, and the response from Massachusetts General Hospital has been particularly positive," Laura replied politely, though inwardly she was eager to get home. As a single mother, balancing career and parenting was always a tightrope walk. 8-year-old Amy was the center of her life. "Now, about that New York business trip next week," Michael continued. "The National Medical Equipment Exhibition is a huge opportunity for us. We need your presentation skills." Laura hesitated for a moment. "It was for 3 days, right? When I think about Amy, your expertise as a sales manager is indispensable to the company. You're the only one who can convince the buyers at this exhibition." Michael's tone was kind but made it difficult to refuse. Leaving the office, Laura gazed at a photo of Amy's school picture in her car. Her daughter with blonde ponytails and clear blue eyes had a thoughtful expression beneath her smile. Since her husband Mark's death, mother and daughter had formed a deep bond. Amy had her father's features, and her intelligence and kindness were Laura's emotional support. When she arrived at her apartment, Nancy, the babysitter who lived next door, was waiting at the entrance. "Welcome home, Laura. Amy's already asleep. She was so happy about getting an A+ on her math test today." "Thank you, Nancy. You're always such a help." Laura quietly opened the door to Amy's bedroom and watched her sleeping face. By her pillow were her beloved teddy bear and a book about constellations that Mark had given to his daughter before he died. She gently kissed her daughter's forehead. The next morning at the breakfast table, Laura had to bring up the business trip. "New York." "But Mom, I can't stay home alone," Amy said with an anxious face. "That's why you'll be staying with Grandma and Aunt Vanessa." "No. I don't want to go to Grandma's house." Amy's voice trembled. Laura was surprised by her daughter's reaction. "Why not? Grandma and Aunt Vanessa love you." Amy silently stirred her cereal with her spoon. "Grandma scares me." "What are you saying?" "Grandma, scary." "Did something happen?" "Nothing," Amy answered in a small voice. That afternoon, Laura called her mother, Carol. Since her husband's death, Carol had been living with Laura's sister Vanessa in a suburban house. Outwardly, she was a warm grandmother and a former elementary school teacher with a good reputation in town. "Of course I'll take care of Amy," Carol's voice sounded sweet over the phone. "I'm looking forward to her visit. Vanessa says she's taking time off too, so we'll spoil her together." "Thanks, Mom. Amy seems a little anxious, so please be gentle with her." "My goodness, what are you saying?" "She's my granddaughter, of course I will," Carol laughed, but there was something cold in her voice. "Still, putting work before your child and leaving her behind. I could never do that." It seemed like a casual remark, but it felt like a needle piercing Laura's heart. Her relationship with her mother was complicated. Carol would praise Laura's achievements on the surface but never forgot her criticism and complaints. Her sister Vanessa, without a steady job, lived in their mother's house and seemed to look at her sister's success with envy. That weekend, Laura and Amy visited the family home. Carol greeted them at the door with a beaming smile and embraced Amy. "Oh, my darling granddaughter. You've grown so much." Vanessa appeared from behind, cheerfully waving at Laura. "How's work? Leave everything to us and enjoy your business trip." As Laura set down her bags, she felt a strange tension in the house. Her mother and sister wore perfect smiles, but their eyes weren't smiling. "I'll come pick you up on Monday," Laura hugged Amy tightly at the front door. "I'll be back soon, so be a good girl." Amy clung to her mother with tears in her eyes. "Do you promise? Will you definitely come back?" "Of course, my angel," Laura promised, stroking her daughter's hair. "I'll call you too." On the drive back, Laura looked at the family home in the rearview mirror. She could see her mother and sister waving through the window. Inside, she felt mixed emotions, anxiety about leaving her daughter and anticipation about potential promotion at work. "If this trip goes well, Amy and I can have a better life," she told herself, gripping the steering wheel. Laura's hotel room in New York was on a high floor with a panoramic view of Manhattan at night. Sitting on the large bed, she held her smartphone to her ear. Tomorrow was the most important day of the National Medical Equipment Exhibition. Her presentation could potentially influence the company's sales this quarter. "Hello, Mom. Can I talk to Amy?" Carol's voice came through the phone. "Oh, Laura. Amy has gone out to play with some neighborhood children." "At this hour?" Laura looked at her watch. It was already past 7 p.m. "Who is she playing with?" "I don't know. Some local kids." "Don't worry, Vanessa is watching them." Carol's voice was unnaturally cheerful. "More importantly, are you ready for the exhibition?" "Yes, I'm fine." "But..." Laura felt uneasy. "Could you have Amy call me when she gets back?" Of course," Carol answered lightly. "Oh, dinner's just ready. Talk to you later." After the call ended, Laura threw herself on the bed. She felt uncomfortable not being able to speak directly with Amy, but she had to make final checks on her presentation slides. The new neurosurgical monitoring system was a product she had spent 2 years developing with her team. Its success would be key to advancing her career to the next level. At 11 p.m., Laura was still waiting to hear from Amy. When she called her mother's house again, Vanessa answered this time. "Sis, why are you calling so late?" Vanessa's voice had a slight edge of irritation. "I want to talk to Amy. She's already in bed. We put her to bed early because she has school tomorrow," Vanessa yawned. "Amy is fine. Are you nervous about your big presentation tomorrow?" "Yes." Laura's voice trailed off. "Is there anything different about Amy? Is she anxious about anything?" "Not at all. She's having fun. Mom even made her special treats. Don't you trust us?" Vanessa's voice grew colder. "It's not that. I'm just worried." "I understand. Well, good night." After the call ended, Laura stared out the window. Her anxiety was growing, but all she could do now was focus on tomorrow's presentation. She set her alarm and lay down on the bed. The next morning's presentation was a great success. Major buyers in the medical equipment industry showed strong interest in Laura's new product, and several large orders had already been placed. Division head Michael patted her shoulder and whispered, "Your promotion is a sure thing." Laura took a moment to breathe at the exhibition hall cafe and called her mother's house again. But there was no answer. She also sent a message to Amy's phone, but there was no read receipt. As the hours passed, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., her anxiety increased. Finally, in the evening, she received a message from her mother. "We're all at the park. Amy is having fun. Don't worry." It was a brief message, but Laura felt somewhat relieved. That night, she attended a dinner with company executives to celebrate the success of the new product. However, a vague uneasiness never left her heart. She returned to the hotel after 10 p.m., exhausted. She called her mother's house again. Carol answered. Again. Her mother's voice contained clear dissatisfaction. "Amy is already asleep." Why don't you rest too? You must be busy tomorrow as well. I'm sorry, Mom. I just haven't been able to talk to Amy at all. Laura, it's always work with you. Just leave the children to us. Amy is happy here. Carol's voice was low and somehow meaningful. Well, good night. The call abruptly ended. Laura stared at her smartphone, feeling like she was missing something important. She sent Amy a message, "Good night, my angel. I'll be home tomorrow night. I love you." On the final morning, Laura woke up early to organize her materials. While preparing a report for the company, she was making plans to spend time with Amy when she got home. Outside the window, rain had begun to fall, and gray clouds covered New York skyscrapers. She ordered coffee from hotel room service and was preparing for her last meeting. That's when her smartphone rang. It was from an unknown number. "Hello, this is Laura Bradley." "Ms. Bradley, this is Angela from the reception desk at Boston Memorial Hospital." The woman's voice was calm but urgent. "Your daughter, Amy Bradley, has been brought to our hospital as an emergency case." Laura felt the blood drain from her face. "What? Your daughter was brought in critical condition. Could you please come as soon as possible? What happened? What's wrong with her?" Laura's voice trembled. "We'll explain the details when you arrive. We're currently providing emergency treatment." After hanging up, Laura panicked. Her hands were shaking so much she could barely pack. She managed to contact Division Head Michael to tell him she needed to return immediately due to a family emergency. "Of course, you must go," Michael showed understanding. "I'll arrange the company jet. We'll make sure you can return on the earliest flight." While heading to the airport in a taxi, Laura called her mother's house several times. But there was no answer. She also sent messages to Amy's phone, but they weren't marked as read. As a last resort, she called Vanessa's mobile. "Hello." Vanessa's voice sounded sleepy. "Vanessa. What happened to Amy?" "I got a call from the hospital." Laura shouted. There was silence on the other end. Then, unbelievably, she heard Vanessa's small laugh. "Oh, really? Are you laughing? Amy is in critical condition. Tell me what happened." Laura's voice shook with anger and fear. "I don't know," Vanessa answered coldly. "Maybe she just left on her own." "What?" She heard her mother Carol's voice. "Laura. What are you making such a fuss about?" "Mom. What happened to Amy?" "I heard she was taken to the hospital." Well, Carol's voice showed no surprise. "We left the front door open and she disappeared." "It's her own fault, isn't it?" Laura hung up in disbelief. Her whole body trembled with anger and fear. Something was terribly wrong. Her mother and sister's reactions were as if they knew everything. As she boarded the company jet, Laura couldn't hold back her tears. Her heart was filled with terrible premonitions. When the automatic doors of Boston Memorial Hospital opened, the strong smell of disinfectant wafted over her. Laura rushed to the reception desk. Her eyes were red from crying, her hair disheveled, and her suit wrinkled from the business trip. "Amy Bradley, age 8. I was informed she was brought in as an emergency. I'm her mother." The nurse at the desk looked up and immediately picked up the internal phone. A few minutes later, a middle-aged female doctor in a white coat appeared. "Ms. Bradley, I'm Dr. Simpson, head of the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit," she said in a quiet voice. "Please try to remain calm. This way, please." Led to a small consultation room, Laura couldn't contain herself anymore. "How is my daughter? Is she alive?" "Yes, she's alive," the doctor answered with a stern expression. "However, her condition is extremely serious. Amy fell downstairs, suffering head trauma and internal bleeding. She also has a fracture in her left arm, bruises on her back and abdomen, and on her right arm. She hesitated for a moment, as if choosing her words. There are burn marks on her right arm that appear to be from cigarettes. Laura gasped. Burns? Cigarettes? That's impossible. No one in our house smokes. Ms. Bradley, the doctor chose her words carefully. These patterns of injuries, especially the traces of old burns, suggest the possibility of abuse. Abuse? Laura's voice shook. By whom? I was away on business, and my daughter was staying with my mother and sister. The police have already begun an investigation, the doctor quietly informed her. They should arrive soon. For now, let's see your daughter. When Laura entered the pediatric intensive care unit, her heart nearly stopped. In the hospital bed lay her little angel. Amy's face was covered in bruises, her head was bandaged, and she wore an oxygen mask. Monitors regularly recorded her heartbeat, and transparent tubes extended from her small body. Amy. Laura rushed to her daughter's side, crying. Taking her small hand, it felt so cold. Mommy is here. You'll be okay. The door opened, and 2 police officers entered. One was a middle-aged man, the other a young woman. Ms. Bradley. I'm Detective Robert Clark. This is my colleague, Sarah Morris, the man introduced himself quietly. May we speak with you? Laura nodded, still holding her daughter's hand. We understand that you were in New York when Amy was injured, Detective Clark confirmed. Yes, at a medical equipment exhibition. Laura's words caught in her throat. If only I had been there. Don't blame yourself, Detective Morris said quietly. Who was Amy staying with? My mother Carol and my sister Vanessa. They live in our family home in the suburbs. Do you know anything about these injuries? Laura shook her head. I first learned about it from the hospital's call. When I contacted my mother. She choked on her words. What did she say? Detective Clark prompted. My mother said, I don't know, maybe she just left on her own, and my sister said, we left the front door open and she disappeared. It's her own fault, isn't it? Laura's voice trembled with anger. They did something to Amy. I know it. The detectives exchanged glances. Ms. Bradley, we've already sent investigators to your mother's house. A detailed investigation will begin now. At that moment, the door to the hospital room opened, and Carol and Vanessa entered. Carol stood with an elegance that belied her 63 years, while Vanessa held a smartphone in her hand. Their expressions showed more wariness than concern. Laura, it must have been difficult, Carol tried to approach her daughter. Stay away. Laura shouted. What did you do to Amy? What are you talking about? Carol pretended to be surprised. Amy left the house on her own. She probably fell down the stairs trying to go out and play with friends. Friends? Amy doesn't have any friends near your house. Laura trembled with anger. And what about the cigarette burns? Carol and Vanessa's expressions hardened slightly. Vanessa snorted. Are you going to blame us again? It's always like this. Your parenting is the problem. Detective Clark intervened. Both of you, could you explain the situation? What was happening when Amy left the house? Nothing, Carol answered calmly. After breakfast, Amy was playing in the guest room upstairs. After a while, I heard a noise and went to check, but she was gone. The front door was open, so I thought she had gone out on her own. And you didn't go looking for her? Detective Morris asked. Of course I looked, Carol said with displeasure. But I couldn't find her, so I was waiting for her to come back. And you didn't receive any calls from the hospital? Carol and Vanessa fell silent. Who made the report? Laura asked the doctor. A neighbor. They found Amy collapsed by the side of the road and called 911. Laura's entire body shook with anger. You're not telling the truth. You hurt Amy. Do you have evidence? Vanessa said provocatively. You're the one who's always working and neglecting your child. You're a failure as a mother. Ms. Bradley, mother, Detective Clark intervened. This is a hospital room. Let's continue this conversation elsewhere. At that moment, a sudden alarm sounded from the monitor. Amy's heart rate had risen sharply. The doctor and nurses rushed in. Everyone, please leave the room immediately. Dr. Simpson ordered. Out in the hallway, Laura watched through the glass window as medical staff surrounded her daughter. Tears flooded her eyes, and her knees trembled. If Amy is all right, this isn't over, Carol whispered in her ear. This is all you're worth. Laura turned and, for the first time, saw the hatred lurking in her mother's eyes. It was just for a moment, but a chill ran down her spine. At this moment, she was certain that something was fundamentally wrong. This was no accident. Hours later, Amy's condition stabilized. Laura was again sitting by her daughter's bedside, holding her small hand. The police had taken Carol and Vanessa to the station for questioning. The hospital room was quiet, with only the regular sound of the monitors. Mommy. Laura jumped at the faint voice. Amy's eyes were slightly open. Amy. It's okay, Mommy's here, Laura gently stroked her daughter's face. Grandma. Amy's voice was weak. Grandma pushed me. Laura's blood froze. Pushed you? Down the stairs. Amy gave a small nod. She was angry, because I said, I wanted to call Mommy. Tears streamed down Laura's cheeks. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'll never leave you again. Aunt Vanessa too, with cigarettes. Amy cried. It hurt. Laura trembled with intense anger. She immediately pressed the nurse call button, and soon the doctor and nurses rushed in. She spoke, Laura said in a shaking voice. She said her grandmother pushed her down the stairs and her aunt burned her with cigarettes. Dr. Simpson's expression hardened. I'll contact the police immediately. Minutes later, Detectives Clark and Morris returned to the hospital room. They quietly listened to Amy's testimony and recorded everything. Ms. Bradley, Detective Clark said quietly. When we searched your mother's house, we found Amy's blood on the stairs and walls. We also discovered several suspicious drugs in her room. Laura was speechless. Furthermore, Detective Morris continued, we found photos of Amy's injuries on Vanessa Walker's smartphone, along with messages speaking ill of you. Both of them have been arrested and are being questioned. Why? Laura asked in a trembling voice. Why did they hurt my daughter? Detective Clark took a deep breath. We haven't uncovered all the motives yet, but hostility toward you appears to be at the root. In preliminary questioning, your mother and sister stated they were jealous of your success and wanted to take everything away from you. Laura looked at her daughter's small body. Amy had fallen asleep again, but this time her expression was peaceful. The crisis might have passed, but the road ahead would certainly not be smooth. We'll station an officer here 24 hours a day, Detective Morris assured her. Amy's safety is secured. Laura just nodded. She gripped Amy's small hand, vowing never to let go. Morning sunlight streaming through the hospital window gently illuminated Amy's face. Laura had spent the entire night by her daughter's bedside without sleeping. When the doctors came for their morning rounds, Laura stood up with a tense expression. Ms. Bradley, Amy's condition is gradually improving, Dr. Simpson informed her with a brighter expression than the previous day. Based on the head CT results, there doesn't seem to be any permanent brain damage. The fracture is also healing well. Really? Laura's voice trembled with hope. Yes. She's a strong child, the doctor smiled. Of course, it will take time for a complete recovery. We need to address not only the physical injuries but also the psychological trauma. I'll do anything, Laura said with determination. I'll make sure she receives all the care she needs. That afternoon, Amy woke up again. This time she was more lucid and looked at Laura. Mommy, you came back, tears shone in Amy's blue eyes. Of course, Laura gently stroked her daughter's hair. Mommy will always be here. Amy was silent for a while, but eventually began to speak in a small voice. Grandma and Aunt Vanessa were mean to me. I know, you didn't do anything wrong, Laura said gently. Grandma always said, your mom cares more about her work than us, Amy's voice trembled. But I knew you loved me. Laura hugged her daughter and cried. Mommy loves you more than anything, Amy. You are my everything. There was a knock on the hospital room door, and Detective Clark entered. He smiled kindly at the two. How are you feeling, Amy? It hurts a little, but I'm okay, Amy answered bravely. You're very courageous, the detective said admiringly. Miss Bradley, may I speak with you? The two went out into the hallway. Detective Clark's expression was severe. There's been a development in the investigation, he said quietly. We found detailed records about you and Amy on your mother's computer. Your work schedule, Amy's school schedule, and... He hesitated for a moment. And? Laura prompted. Detailed plans regarding your life and accidents. Laura was speechless with shock. Yes. Plans to tamper with your car brakes, methods to mix poison into your food, and... Detective Clark took a deep breath. Various ways to use Amy to make you suffer. Laura leaned against the wall. Unbelievable. Further details have emerged from the interrogation of Carol Walker and Vanessa Walker. Detective Morris joined them to explain. It seems they deeply resented your success and independence. Your mother in particular harbored strong hatred because you left her control and became independent. It's as if mother thought of me as her possession. Laura said in a trembling voice. Initial psychological evaluations indicate that your mother shows characteristics of severe controlling behavior and narcissistic personality disorder, Detective Clark continued. Vanessa seems to have acted as her accomplice. Were they planning to endanger Amy from the beginning? Laura's voice trembled. It appears to have been premeditated, Detective Morris answered. They admitted to carrying it out while you were on a business trip. In their words, the goal was to take away what Laura values most. My business trip. Laura covered her face. If I hadn't gone. Don't blame yourself, Detective Clark said kindly. This is not your responsibility. This pattern of pathological control and abuse seems to have been going on in your family for a long time. Weeks later, a preliminary hearing was held in the solemn courtroom of the district court. Laura sat in the prosecution's witness stand, looking directly at her mother and sister. Carol sat with a posture that belied her age, while Vanessa nervously intertwined her fingers. Both wore orange prison uniforms. Prosecutor Jennifer Reynolds stood up. The defendants Walker are charged with premeditated abuse and attempted murder of a young child. Evidence of a murder plot against Laura Bradley has also been found. The judge looked sternly at the two defendants over his glasses. Is there an application for bail? Yes, Your Honor, Carol's lawyer stood up. My client is a respected former teacher in the community and poses no risk of flight. Denied, the judge answered immediately. Considering the threat to the victim and the gravity of the evidence, both defendants will be detained until trial. As they left the courtroom, Laura asked Detective Clark, "Why would my mother do this?" "I'm her daughter." Sometimes family creates the most complex relationships, the detective answered quietly. According to our investigation, your mother mentally controlled you for years and considered your success her own achievement. Your independence and success may have made her feel you had escaped her control. And she tried to use Amy to hurt me. Yes. But Amy's strength and your love stopped their plan. While preparing for Amy's discharge from the hospital, Laura was speaking with the child's psychologist, Dr. Jenkins. Recovery from trauma takes time, the psychologist explained gently. However, Amy has remarkable resilience. With regular therapy and your loving support, she will overcome this. How can we rebuild trust? Laura asked anxiously. She was betrayed by family. First, provide safety and stability, Dr. Jenkins answered. And be honest. Tell her the truth in age-appropriate ways and answer her questions. Above all, always show her that you are there for her. When Amy came out of the hospital room in a wheelchair, there was a small smile on her face. The bandage on her head had been removed, and her arm cast was decorated with messages and drawings from friends. I'm ready, Mommy, Amy said quietly. Laura gently placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. This is a new beginning, Amy. From now on, it's just us as a family. As they left the hospital, bright spring sunshine enveloped them. A long road lay ahead, but Laura was no longer afraid. Amy, are you ready to blow out your birthday candles? The bright living room was decorated with colorful balloons, and a handmade banner reading, Happy Birthday Amy 9 years old, hung on the wall. Through the windows, the lush green scenery of their new suburban Boston neighborhood was visible. Laura, camera in hand, smiled as she watched her daughter surrounded by friends and colleagues. Amy's golden hair had regained its healthy shine, and her blue eyes once again had their innocent light. She took a deep breath and blew out all the candles at once. The room filled with applause and cheers. Congratulations, Amy, called Jessica, Laura's colleague and fellow single mother. What did you wish for? I can't tell you, Amy laughed wisely. If I don't keep it secret, the wish won't come true. While cake was being distributed and the children ran out to the garden, Laura was making coffee in the kitchen. Dr. Jenkins quietly approached. She had been handling Amy and Laura's psychological counseling for the past year. Her recovery is remarkable, the psychologist smiled. Yours too, Laura. I still have nightmares, Laura quietly confessed. Dreams where I couldn't save Amy. Those will fade with time, Jenkins said gently. Your support group activities are helping not only others but also your own recovery. Laura nodded. With her company's understanding, she had changed to a flexible work arrangement and hosted a support group for victims of domestic abuse once a week. She hoped her experience could be a guide for others. After the party, while helping Amy organize the presents she had received from friends, Laura quietly asked, "Did you have fun today?" "Yes, very much," Amy answered brightly. "I was happy everyone came." "Do you ever think about Grandma and Aunt Vanessa?" Laura carefully asked. Amy was silent for a moment, then answered simply, "Sometimes. But I'm not as scared as before." The trial had ended 3 months ago, with Carol receiving an 18-year prison sentence and Vanessa 12 years. Until the end, neither showed any sign of remorse, glaring at Laura in the courtroom. But they would never again be able to come near Laura and Amy. That night, after putting Amy to bed, Laura went out onto the apartment's balcony. Under the starry sky, she took a deep breath. The past year had been full of trials, but she and her daughter had grown stronger. Her work at the medical equipment company was going well, and she was gradually gaining confidence in balancing parenting and career. Laura now understood the meaning of a real family. It wasn't blood ties, but bonds formed by unconditional love and trust, and a vow to protect each other. As her hair fluttered in the wind, she inwardly vowed, "I will continue to protect you, Amy. That is my promise as your mother." The stars silently watched over her promise.